Hello, friends. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays. Today we're continuing on. We're looking in the Proverbs of Solomon. In the book of Proverbs, we're reading from chapter 11, verses 9 through 15. And I don't want to tell you the title that I've given this section because I think it will give too much away. And I think it would be best if you paid attention while I read it aloud. So, Wisdom Wednesdays today, Proverbs of Solomon, and we are looking at this section in the Proverbs of Solomon. Oh shoot, I have not. This is the third section in the book of Proverbs. It's called the Proverbs of Solomon, which indicates that there are proverbs by other wise people in this book as well. And this section is in chapter 11, and it's focusing on the contrast between the righteous and the wicked. And this is chapter 11, verses 9 through 15 in the ESV. Had to have a bit of my wonderful coffee. Let's begin. With his mouth, the godless man would destroy his neighbor, but by knowledge the righteous are delivered. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices, and when the wicked perish, there are shouts of gladness. By the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked, it is overthrown. Whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. Whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety. Whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer harm, but he who hates striking hands in pledge is secure. Now, I don't know if you picked up on it, but this section here, what Proverbs, what Solomon is pointing out is sort of a relational look at security. So we talked earlier in last week's reading, it was all about wealth and security. This is now looking at your relationships with people and security. And it's super amazing because it starts with neighbor, it moves to city, and then it goes to a people or nation, as you'll read it in the NIV. And then it talks about a stranger. But this is all connected to what happens with the godless, the wicked, as opposed to the righteous and having good counsel. The center verse here is verse 13, where it says, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in spirit keeps a thing covered. Now, if we look at what the NIV says there, it doesn't use the word slandering. It uses a word you're going to understand much more, which is a gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret. Okay, so that's the center of what this is saying. There is something about relationship that requires wisdom in order to have a good relationship with a neighbor, in order that the city be rejoicing and exalted, and in order that a nation does not fall. And then at the very end, it says, whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer, but whoever refuses to shake hands in pledge is safe. Now, the ESV didn't say it that way. It says strike, how did it say again? It said, whoever puts up security for a stranger will surely suffer harm, but he who hates striking hands in pledge is secure. But that's what it's talking about. It's like that handshake agreement. So it's basically saying, because that's a further description of what the verse prior to it was saying, was that if you don't have any guidance and no counselors, you have no safety. And so then, and that's talking about a people or a nation. So I don't know if you see this, but there's all of this relational stuff going on, where it's pointing out that the godless and the wicked are really out to belittle, destroy, and cause harm and reveal secrets of other people. That's what they're out to do. I'm making my camera shake. But the righteous, okay, the righteous are out to make sure that things go well. that by knowledge their neighbors are delivered from harm. It talks about a man of understanding remains silent. They're not going to spread bad news and stuff, and they don't gossip at all. It says that an abundance of counselors, and it doesn't say that these counselors are necessarily righteous, but it is putting sort of like, if you're not wise and you don't have counselors and you just think you're going to make it up yourself, that's not good for not just your neighbor or your city, but all of your people, your whole nation. That's not good. And then the last one is, I sort of at first thought this didn't really fit, because then it talks about a stranger. But I mean, let's just think about this for just a minute, okay? I'm a Canadian. I now have a green card. I'm living here in the United States, but I am, I'm a stranger and an alien in this land. Very much so. And sometimes I feel it more than other times. But the bottom line is there's been a very slow process to how they have accepted my presence here. Okay? They had to make sure that I was not going to take jobs from other teachers that might need it here, but because they're short on teachers, they're like, yeah, you can have a job, you can work. I now again have to have another interview this coming fall, even though I've had the green card now since the work visa since 2020. 2 years later, they want to interview me again, make sure that I wasn't lying, that my husband and I are actually married. There's all of this, there's this slow sort of process of knowing that I'm no longer a stranger and that I have become someone that they can surely trust and make a pledge with. I know I'm kind of exaggerating some of this, but even Canada does the same thing. We don't just, there is a process to having the stranger come in. And even we need to understand from the Jewish reader's perspective, there is much said about how a good Jewish man and nation and city would treat a foreigner. And it's actually all about hospitality and showing concern and bringing the foreigner close like a neighbor. And that's important to note too, because here it's just saying that you need to be careful. And yet it's not saying like, don't talk to strangers like we say to our kids, which we should never say to our kids, by the way. You should teach them how to discern whether the stranger is dangerous or not. I think that's a better way of going about it. Anyway, there you go. So what this is saying to you is be wise in your relationships, because that will bring security in your life. And it starts with understanding that you can't be godless and wicked and and slandering and a gossip and without counselors, because then you are seeking to destroy. Wisdom from Solomon in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verses 9 through 15 in the ESV on Wisdom Wednesdays. Have yourself a lovely day.